Intersec, uniting the world's leading industry specialists for safety and security of future generation. Our next topic and presentation. More about topic we will hear from Mr. Alex Nicholl. He joined MESE Frankfurt, Middle East in September 2021 and leads the Intersec team to deliver the shows in Dubai and Riyadh. He has spent the last 20 years in senior positions in the international events industry, having gained his experience organizing some of the largest global defense and security shows, included working for the British government, the Abu Dhabi government, and 3 of the world's largest and most successful exhibition organizers: Reed Exhibitions, United Business Media, and Informa. Mr. Alex, welcome. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much indeed. Let me just get my screen shared.
Mr.
Good.
Alex, please full screen.
That should be full screen. Let me try again.
No, we can see full screen.
Okay. You can or can't?
Can't.
Okay. Let me try again. Should be on.
Now it's great.
Okay, great. I'm not sure what I did differently there, but we're there. So first of all, good afternoon, and thank you very much for this opportunity to talk about Intersec, which is the leading international security, fire safety, and homeland security event in the region, in the MENA region, and one of the largest globally. I'll talk a little bit about Intersec Dubai, or most about Intersec Dubai, a little bit about Intersec Riyadh, which is another show we have, but we also, as an organization, have quite a few events around the world. And Intersec is owned and organized by MESE Frankfurt, which is hopefully go on to the next slide. 1 second. Very slow. Which is the 3rd largest exhibition organizer in the world. Obviously, it's our headquarters are in Frankfurt. It had the figures come from pre-pandemic, as you will appreciate. We had almost 750 million turnover in 2018, and it was just over 3/4 of turnover in 2019. Obviously 2020, different story. We host almost 500, I think now it's just over 500 events annually, and we engage with over 55,000 exhibitors. We spread out, I think we've got sales partners in something like 130 different countries. So we are quite a large presence internationally, and it's government owned. It's state owned by MESE Frankfurt, and obviously the heart of the MESE Frankfurt is the venue itself, the fairground in Frankfurt, which is almost 600,000 square meters. To put that into perspective, the Excel Centre in London is 100,000. So again, we're very lucky to have a large fairground as well. I've touched on pandemic. Obviously, as we all know, the pandemic had a major impact on all of the events industry. And I work obviously in Dubai, which is where we hold Intersec. And Dubai and only 2 other locations were the only places for the whole of 2020, 2021 to actually bring any revenue in. So MESE Frankfurt has had a tough time, but we're coming out of it. And we were delighted to be able to hold the event Intersec in Dubai for the first time, having missed the 2021 version as well. So sticking with MESE Frankfurt itself, these are the shows that we currently organize, and we have 2 brand names. Secutech, which tends to be kind of the East, and Intersec, which kind of goes from Dubai to the west. And as you see there in the heart of the show, there is the Adria Security Summit and ASEC Expo, which is powered, what we refer to our partnership with Adria is powered by Intersec, which is a mutually supportive agreement in that it gives us reach into Southeast Europe, but also gives Adria the opportunity to use the brand that we've developed over, well, the brand here is 23 years old, over 23 years, to help accelerate and get the influence for their events around the Southeast Europe region. So as you can see there, we hold events right from South America through to the events that I'm responsible for in Saudi Arabia, Dubai, India, over to the Ho Chi Minh in Vietnam, Thailand, Taipei, etc. And we're in discussions at the moment with another organizer in China as well, as they come out of, or they come back into the pandemic, but as they come out of the pandemic, we will be growing our partnerships in that region as well, which is obviously very significant for us for the Chinese market for security. So, as I say, I am responsible for the event here in Dubai, which was held in January. We missed the 2021 version. We were lucky enough pre-pandemic to get the 2020 version. But these figures are what we achieved in 2020, right at the peak of Omicron. And Omicron here kind of hit us in December, where the figures were just getting silly in Dubai and the UAE. And we had 72 companies pull out in the last 6 weeks before the show because they had problems with traveling, as you'd expect. So Mumbai, Delhi was closed down, or not closed down, it had to be, if you returned to Mumbai or Delhi, you were on a 2-week program of being locked up for 2 weeks on your return. A similar story from Germany and various other European countries. So we kind of hit the worst time, but we still managed to pull off over 18,000 visitors, well over 20,000 attendees. Our footprint was not far less than what we normally have, but that was because we had to have much wider aisles. We had to have 4-meter aisles as opposed to normal 2.5, 3-meter aisles for COVID reasons. But our exhibitors was under half of what we would normally have. We normally have over 1,100 exhibitors in 2020, and we were down to about 500. And we were really appreciative of the companies that made that extra effort to travel here, to have their stand built, and to represent and promote their products and services at Intersec this year. It was the 23rd edition, as it shows there. We had 108 different countries attend. Those figures always would be slightly higher than that. We enjoy, it says at the top there, the patronage of His Highness Sheikh Mansour, and who is very supportive. But he also has a link into border security in the UAE, so it's actually relevant to him. And for the UAE, it's very important to have the government relations for the show. So we have government partners. Our key 5 government partners you can see there. We've had Dubai Police and Civil Defence. Civil Defence is basically the fire department. CIRA is the Security Industry Regulatory Agency, and every single company that comes into UAE, wants to do business in the UAE, has to have their product or service authorised and regulated by CIRA. CIRA is a very influential organisation within the UAE, and Dubai Municipality. So Dubai Municipality is, because obviously a big chunk of our show is safety, our responsibility for the safety. So they had an absolute key part during the pandemic in Dubai, and they're a key partner for us. Our new partnership for 2022 was the Cyber Security Council, and it was a new feature that we developed in 2022 and gave its own sort of identity and feature within the show, and our own partnership with Cyber Security Council. We were responsible federally for all the cyber aspects and acquisitions within the UAE. They are an amazing partner to get into bed with, along with obviously Dubai Police and Civil Defence, CIRA, and Dubai Municipality. So we're very pleased to be developing that. The exhibitors in 2022, we had, you can see on the right there, the top 10 countries who exhibited. So it's still a very international, the inter of Intersec, international is relevant, is correct. It's an incredibly international event. The predominant numbers of exhibitors are from the UAE, which is less than 40%. Then the UK, we had, I think the UK rules between Dubai and the UK were corrected in about November, which allowed, I think there were 79 companies from the UK attending, followed by Germany, US, France, India, Turkey, Czech Rep, and Korea. Normally you'd have China in that list, and normally India would be higher on that list of content. But we are predominantly, for our exhibitors that come in, we reflect the global industry, the size of the global industry within those countries. Obviously, US would be at the top, as we all know, would be at the top of the list of security equipment manufacturers, but they've got a bit further to come. But the target audience of Intersec is very much the MENA region, not just the UAE. You can see some of the other stats, there, that how many people. We do a lot of feedback, do a lot of analysis of the exhibitors and visitors to make sure that their satisfaction levels are good, why they came, and as obviously you'd expect in 23 years, we've honed this to quite a good level to make sure that we're delivering and adapting the show as people go forward. Just go on the next slide. So visitors, obviously the key reason why our exhibitors come are buyers, and we have various buyer programs at Intersec. We have the very senior level UAE delegations who, as you'd expect, come across from the Ministry of Interior, the police, etc., who come to the show on many occasions, and the CIRA, Dubai Civil Defence and police all have their own stands, which encourages the Director Generals of those departments to spend a lot of time at the show, to mingle and obviously to visit stands. We then have a second tier, which I think is pretty unique, certainly in this region, of what we call as our premium club. And they are people who aren't necessarily VIPs, but they are buyers. We spend a continuous, so it's going on now for 2023, time identifying the various verticals that are relevant to the event that we're holding. So we quite into oil and gas quite clearly in this region, so we'll be looking at the relevant buyers from the oil and gas sector who should be involved in security. We then host them. We identified over 1,000 for 2022, and we hosted just under 500 guests in a very nice club, a very exclusive club. Separate to that, we have our VIPs, and a lot of people in this region are VIPs or consider themselves VIPs, so they have a VIP badge, a free coffee, but they're not our buyers list. They're not necessarily on our buyers list, so we identify this as well. And quite clearly, we have a lot of trade visitors as the remainder of the audience, plus media. Our top 10 countries of visitors, you can see there, and it is MENA. Egypt, Iran, Saudi, UAE. This is when exhibitors come to Intersec, they will be targeting as like an expanding geography of the UAE, the GCC, the MENA region. If you're targeting France, you will get French visitors from here, or the UK. Quite clearly, there are other events that you might wish to attend if that was your key top of the line target market. So visitors by area of interest, and when I'll give some explanation to this first, but our show is basically split into 4 pillars now. There are 6 shown there, but let me explain. There are 4 pillars to the show. So there's commercial security, which includes perimeter and physical security, is one pillar. Fire and rescue is the second pillar. Safety and health is a third, and Homeland Security is a fourth. We don't consider cybersecurity as a pillar of the show because it actually covers every single aspect of all the four pillars. So we refer to it as like a feature that covers the whole show. As I said, we gave it an identity in 2022, and it was a phenomenal success. We had what we call a cyber lab, which was an opportunity for industry and government to share ideas and present ideas and latest innovations. But that was in the heart of the exhibiting companies that was around the cyber lab. So we had the sort of heart of the show that was involved in cyber. It was such a success, we would be more than doubling the size of that and the interest in the show going forward. The other four pillars, cybersecurity and fire and rescue and safety, have been around for 23 years. They are what Intersec is traditionally known as. What people haven't, and I started this job in October and just end of September, but what people haven't traditionally done is identify that the majority of the buyers here are government, and a lot of the products and services on display and being promoted at Intersec are homeland, their border security, their airport security, their maritime security, their critical national infrastructure security products and services. And so we have, again, for 2023, you'll see it, given it a far greater identity. I've recruited a sales team just to focus on this sector so that people can show weapons. Okay, we're a German company, it had to get special permission, but weapons, small arms, small caliber ammunition, armored vehicles have always been there because the police quite clearly use armored vehicles, but there's a recognition now that handguns or armored body armor, etc., is just as relevant to the police as it is to the armed forces, as it is to the border security guards. So in our fourth pillar that will see huge growth for 2023, particularly in the environment we currently sit, is in Homeland Security. So our visitors, as it reflects our history of security, almost exactly half of the visitors are security based, and then 36% on fire and safety, and wrapped up with cyber and others miscellaneous. By nature of business, you can see what we're getting here. What was interesting this year for the pandemic is the level of visitor that we were receiving was slightly different. The visitor quality was up because many people with restrictions on travel were hesitant about getting on a plane to come to Dubai, and therefore it was found it was the senior management were the more likely. For the 3 people coming historically, maybe 1 or 2 people came this time, the senior guys would get the flight. So our visitor quality was actually, the quality was higher than previously, although our numbers were down. The numbers of the actual overall numbers were up for sort of chief level, MD level visitors. Our visitor density, so the number of people per square meter, sold square meter, was almost exactly the same in 2022 as it was pre-pandemic in 2020. So again, our exhibitors, and there was a couple of quotes towards the end of the presentation, our exhibitors had the most incredible experience because they had a target-rich environment with more senior visitors in a slightly smaller show. I'm not condoning that we want to do it this way in the future. We'd like to get back where we were, but we certainly had the exhibitors that came had a really, really good experience at the show this year. So don't just believe me when I say that. These are some of the, I think I've got a couple of quotes here, feedback, both from FAR, just coincidentally, of what people thought of the show, and the fact that people want to come back. We will be seeing a show that's probably 25–30% bigger, not quite back. We lost about 40% in between 2020 and 2022. We reckon we'll get almost there. Our stretch target is to get back to 2020 by January. Our challenge there is about 200 of our exhibitors are from China, and they will probably not be attending again, which is good news for all those selling, and they don't want the Chinese competition, but not so great as an organizer. So that's one quote. And the final slide is Bristol, which is again a fire company. They're just having a good time. It was really, really nice to get back to being face-to-face meetings with industry. And this is one of the feedbacks we had from people is after 2 years of not seeing, and here we are with the virtual event, not seeing people face to face, is to get actually to do their business face to face. And in conclusion, I would say Intersec is a very well-established show. We have the same model, but smaller, of what we run in Dubai. We have in Saudi Arabia, which takes place in September, Intersec Riyadh. For the first time in Riyadh, it's the fourth time, but the first three were in Jeddah, and it's been to Riyadh to recognise the fact that the government buyers in there, our government partners are there. We have various shows, 15 shows around the world, all involved in security, but we have this magnificent sales partnership around 130 countries who are all selling into all the different angles. So we are a truly international event that takes place in Dubai, which could be considered as an international hub for movement and transport. So it's something that I would hope people will get on, look up, and hopefully attend, either participating either as an exhibitor or as a visitor in the future. That's it for me, and I'm very happy to take any questions.
Mr. Alex, is everything okay?
Yeah, just trying to get me back to the original screen. Hang on, almost there. I'm working off someone else's laptop in someone else's office at the moment, so I'm just fighting with it. How are things with you?
Don't worry.
I think I can get back to the original screen. Are there any questions?
We have two questions for you.
Yeah.
Can I start with first?
Yes.
Just a minute, please.
Okay.
My technical support will give me all questions. And I can see it now. First of all, we have seen really impressive numbers of Messe Frankfurt. Also, thank you for mentioning Adria Security Summit in your presentation. We are delighted to be part of it. How do you predict the behavior of trade shows after pandemics have ended, and can we expect innovations in organizing these?
I think what's interesting is as soon as the pandemic started, oh no, that's my screen's come back, thank you. When the pandemic started 2 years ago, a lot of people weren't doom and gloom, and they actually considered that virtual was the replacement somehow for face-to-face meeting. Virtual and digital meeting has an absolute role, and I'll come on to the lessons we've learned over the last 2 years, but it cannot replace face-to-face. And what has been a pleasure for the big organisers, Reed Exhibition, Informa, Messe Frankfurt, is our portfolio of sort of hundreds of events aren't at risk because the restrictions on travel after the pandemic. Post-pandemic, our events are bigger, better and livelier than ever before. There's a big Arab health show that took place about 2 weeks after Intersec. That was the largest show they've ever had in history. So we're coming back, bouncing back, one could say, back into the industry. What we have learned and the lessons we've learned is there's a role for virtual and a role for bringing people who cannot travel through either cost or pandemic to join a conference like today. I would not be able to be in Sarajevo, but I can join it, and hopefully a lot of our audience are sitting at home or in their offices, being able to listen to this, who would otherwise not be coming. So there's a virtual. If I had a website, I'd call it virtually there, because we are so much better now, and it's become such a everyday occurrence to be doing Zoom calls or any form of Microsoft Teams calls, etc., where it achieves more. Before it was almost, oh, you can't make it, therefore we'll go virtual. No, it has a real role. One of the things we did at Intersec this year, we recorded everything. We had 6 different parallel face-to-face conferences going on the show. We had about 10% of those were virtual presenters. We recorded it all, and then we're going to put it up on our platform so that people can revisit the conferences that they weren't able to see at the time. So I think things will go bigger, better, stronger. We're very encouraged that travel is now getting easier for the majority of countries.
Mr. Alex, how the current situation with inflation, the supply chain will affect the exhibitors coming to events?
I think it will. I think that it will affect all of us. Travel, the oil price as much as anything, will affect the cost of travel. We have tried to keep our prices pretty much constant since pre-pandemic. There are some organisers who are trying to desperately recoup their money that they lost. Messe Frankfurt is fortunately to be a large, we're as a company, we've been running exhibitions for 770 years. So we're kind of a pretty established company, Messe Frankfurt. And they bailed us out. We are only obviously one aspect of what Messe Frankfurt does and what Hesse in Frankfurt does. And we were bailed out. Some of the smaller companies will unfortunately not survive the last couple of years. And the way around it is to help exhibitors and help visitors come to your event, not sting them with additional costs, because they're already, every company is already hurting.
Thank you, Mr. Alex. Thank you for your presenting us everything.